Sade between here and there, and we're going to talk about some concepts that surround search and seizure. Okay, so it's here on 2023 0909 at approximately 1817 here on the East Coast of the United States. And yeah, so last night I had the experience of seeing some officers. Now it's dark, right? So we don't have the energy source of the sun to illuminate the area, whatever square footage or hectare that we're covering, right? So we need a light source, an energy source to illuminate a specific area to gain clarity so our eyes can pick up the visual cues with our cones. Let's not get too much into the anatomy of our eyes, but we do have cones in which read red, blue, green. They pick up these specific wavelengths that are indicated on the electromagnetic spectrum. It's a very narrow window in which humans are able to see this visible light. Okay, so with a little bit of that as background information, a group of officers were walking through a parking lot with flashlights looking into the vehicle. So I asked, is this a search and seizure? And what are we searching and seizing? What's going on? Because as a public servant, they should afford the public certain information. Now, if it impedes on the mission, if there are specifics that need to be left out, like say someone is on the run, it's time sensitive information, it's high level security clearance, there's some information that may not be shared. However, you as the public do get a bit of information and clarity as to what's going on because it's occurring within your space-time reality. Okay. So they're looking through the vehicles with flashlights and said, oh, it's no search and it's no seizure. He said, what are we searching for and what are we seizing? However, that's a question I'm asking him. So with searching, and I even went into the definition of search, right? To examine thoroughly, to find something, okay? That's to search. So his idea was he was just observing, and he gave a specific term, and eventually I will be able to recall back that memory. However, he said it was something to effect of that he's just walking through with his team. They're just walking through the parking lot. However, when you're actively looking for something, that qualifies and quantifies as a search. Seizing would be the secondary, the follow-up to once they locate whatever they're looking for. So it could be a specific substance or thing that they're looking for, and once they identify within that specific vehicle, the vehicle would be seized. The owner of the vehicle would be seized. So it blends into a search and seizure, which you need a warrant for. Okay, so currently I'm not so much into the legalities. Like, I'm not able to wear that crown of an attorney or lawyer. However, I do have background knowledge in it, so don't use this as the end all be all of information. Anything that I put out, even when I'm qualified and certified in specific areas, I encourage the individual, always do your own research, always listen to your gut instinct, and then also if you have people around you that you know and trust, to impart some of that information on, and make sure it doesn't have your close details, because I've been experiencing that in my life journey of expressing something to someone and feeling that they have the best interest for me and they do not. So have discernment in that department as well. So to search and seize, right? Then you have this other dynamic when you think about remote sensing. So, well, actually, let me bring you to open source information. So open source information is information that can be collected without putting on a disguise, creating access to the said thing. Okay, so for an example, social media, right? you want to observe something through open source communication. If that person's profile is public and you look through it, that's considered open source information. Now, if that person's page is private, you create a profile to gain access to said page to observe what's going on. Then that is actually, you're actively looking for something. It's no longer open source information. Okay? And it depends on the time in which you collect that information. What would it be considered? Because people can change that. You can have a public profile, you can have a private profile, or partially private. So, open source information, right? So, and that's the similar concept of observing something. So if it was daylight, so he has his energy source of the sun illuminating a specific square footage, and he's walking through and he observes something, then it's still along the lines of what he was originally stating. But when you apply an energy source and the observer in one co-location, it's no longer what he claimed it to be. It becomes a search and seizure. There is something called remote sensing. So it's a practice of being able to observe something without physically touching it, okay? And remote sensing also deals with 3 ideas that come together to create a remote sensing operation, okay? So you have to have the object in which you want to look at. Like, say, for example, this is my water bottle. This is the object, okay? The observer is myself. I'm observing this. Now, it could be a camera. It could be satellite. It could be other things that could be considered the observer versus the human eye, right? Because this is our first observation. Because even when we use other mediums to observe, we still use our eyes to process the information, okay? So object, observer, and energy source. So the energy source is the sun. I still have some of the sunlight coming in, and I also have this ring light. Can't pull it down, ring light. So that's the energy source. So as me, as the observer, if this water bottle is sitting here, the energy source is illuminating it. I can see it's a water bottle. I happen to observe it. That's considered an aspect of remote sensing. But usually the observer and the energy source are together. Excuse me. That's active versus passive. So, active remote sensing is when the observer and the energy source are together as one. So that would be your camera on your phone, right? Turn on the flash. Okay, it's not showing it. And this is hemp, y'all. You know, hemp uses 60% less water than cotton and could have really pushed America forward, but we were so against and, so against it. And I think some of the powers that be at that particular time understood how powerful hemp was, and they still wanted to go in the direction of cotton. Hemp could definitely be a lot of solutions for things, especially when it comes to clothing and us getting back to more natural materials versus wearing polyester, which is plastic. Now you know. So, active remote sensing, the observer and the light source are as one. So this would be active remote sensing because I would have my light on, illuminating and observing, taking a picture, doing a video of this object. Now, if the observer and the energy source are separate, and that happens a lot when it comes to daylight. When you're just in the daylight, the sun is shining on that specific expanse, and so you're able to observe it without actively observing it, right? You're passively observing it. You just la 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 walking along. Oh, I happen to see this bottle, and I'm still moving, or I could look at it even further. However, I'm not. It's almost like the focus. It creating or collecting a panoramic view of something. Your focus isn't on a specific thing. It's capturing the entire expanse, and then you're taking from that what information you need and how you need to use it in your reporting, expression, etc. Okay. So I also wrote positioning, right? I put positioning, leaning in, and recording. So that's where his team started to move into a search and seizure, because if your body posture is positioned to where you're looking into something, literally, that's the saying, I'll look into it. You're looking into a vehicle, you're actively looking in. That is not just observation. You're actively looking. That's like, say someone's house. If someone walks past your house or knocks on the door, it could be considered like, okay, they're trying to see who's home, they're trying to communicate something to that effect. But when you're actively looking in the windows, now you have positioned yourself in a posture in which you're actively observing something, trying to see what's in the house, who's in the house, who, what, where, when, why, how, and else. Okay. So I'm just running through this, ensuring that I covered enough in this video, because it does start to bleed over into legalities, because that's the justice, that's the balance that is found within the misunderstandings and the conceptions of the world, is law being in place to balance out, like, does this make sense? How are we defining it? And how are we actively maneuvering within this concept? So it was definitely a search and seizure. I had to let him know that I'm not an enemy. I'm not the enemy. Like, I've been in very similar fields for over 15 years. My accolades definitely reflect my experience, my missions, what I've had access to, knowledge, etc. And so, no one is able to do everything right all the time. And again, that's what law is for. It's a structure to allow people that don't understand right from wrong and are far from ethics and morals and values. It allows a structure to be placed over top and saying, like, listen, these are the boundaries in which you should not cross. And when you cross those boundaries, especially when you get into things like premeditation, planning, premeditation is in the planning phase, crimes of passion, all these different things come into account when that is calculated. And so with staying on top of with the search and seizure, it was an active mission given to his team. This is what I want you all to do. We're going to move from this side of the parking lot to the other side using your flashlights in the dark. It's not even, the illumination of the moon wasn't giving us any extra. The moon, it can illuminate an expanse. However, a lot of times when you're in the moonlight, it's distorted. So you're not quite sure what is it really. That part. So, yeah. And so I also looked up seizure, to take hold of suddenly by warrant or legal right. Okay. So you would have to express some legal force to do anything about it. Because once you see what you're searching for, you're observing, what are you going to do? You're just going to, hey, I found something in this vehicle. Or you tell your other buddies, found something in the vehicle, and then you're just not going to do anything. You're going to report it. It's going to be followed through. So it's going to go over into a seizure. And do you even, then you set yourself up for a disservice because you don't have the legal say so to do that. Because you didn't have the legal say so in the beginning. Seizure, circle, search, light, searchlight. And again, it's a search. Seizure, I looked up to the etymology of search and of seizure. Seizure also means circle, searchlight, research, a few other words. But those three really stood out. Circle, searchlight, research. Searchlight, to see. You're searching. It's all on it. It's all within it. It's all playback. And it's like, let's process this thing a lot better next time. Okay? Because if you want to do a walkthrough, it's best to do it in those early hours where the sun is up and you're able, the horizon is illuminated, and you can go through and do a type of remote sensing. Collect all the information you want. You got a body camera, you got your own camera, and you're filming and you're collecting things. That's why cameras, your 360 cameras around your property or whatnot, are very important, because you can remotely collect information, imagery, and use that to your advantage to be aware of your surroundings. However, you can't actively have a search camera, some sort of camera device to impede on someone else's privacy. You can't do that. But if it's your property, it's considered yours. That's positioning, right? It's your property. It's surrounding your 360. Then whatever you pick up, whatever kind of white noise or background gray matter that you collect, it's okay, because the intent, your posture, the observer, the source of energy, the object being observed. And even with 360 cameras, I suggest people look into, because I'm looking into it myself as far as infrared data capture. That way, when it's further into the wood line, I'm able to see further. But I stay ready. So if you want to go digging in the woods somewhere, yeah, I'm not gonna say anything that's gonna, this is recorded and it's gonna be in the ethers once it's released. So, the Most High knows my heart and knows what I'm capable of. So I'll just leave it at that. So, yeah, positioning, open source, remote. So yeah, I've gone through all my notes on it. It's really being able to observe what's going on, dissect it into pieces, comprehend them, and then also knowing your rights and knowing what is able to be done, because there are a lot of systems put in place that are beneficial to us. Because if you think about it, if you come across a TIF, people are thinking to get police enforcement involved, because that's a resource that we have. Okay, someone is being treated unfairly. We can exercise our judicial rights and figure out how we can get this to court to have another set of eyes where a judge can balance and weigh things out to say who's right and who's wrong, and in what cases is this person right or wrong. Because it's not just a way, even though it's judgment weighs everything, at first the individual things are weighed, and then the final weighing of what's happening occurs, and you can really see where the scale's moving. So I think that might be a good summary. Yeah. What's yours and what's your privacy? It can only be it can only be impeded on when you do certain things that allows that. Like, okay, say you're in your vehicle and you're smoking. That's the first thing that came to mind. Say you're in your vehicle and you're smoking. Even though smell isn't something that you can capture and it's not really used, you can't really use it in a court of law because you have to have some sort of smell capture device. And so that's organic chemistry collecting those specific molecules, which then you're looking at its chemical structure and comparing it. But however, with air and how fluid air is just like another form of water. So in physics, so you have water, air is like the upper level of water, and water is the lower level of water. That makes sense. The fluidity, the movement of it, right? So that thought was missed. Hopefully it'll come back. Yeah, it's not coming back at the moment. So yeah, we have to know our rights. We have to be aware because even the people enforcing those laws don't know them all. That's why even attorneys come in to assist police force members because they're operating in a different type of the law enforcement versus the judicial system. Foot soldiers versus the captain of the mission directing things. So I hope that brought some clarity to search and seizure and what that looks like. And if that happens to you, be able to express yourself that, a search, again, I do not seek legal advice through me. And eventually when I'm at the point where I'm able to give legal advice, I still encourage you to do your own research, make it make sense to you, build your own library of information, not just what's on the internet. Please get these hard resources that you can go to and cross-reference so that you can come to an enlightenment of truth. Your truth can be illuminated through information and research, okay? So, yeah, that's the gamut. That's the summary of it. We all are trying to do the best we can with what we have. However, the human experience isn't of perfection. We strive for perfection, but we are not perfection. And when we do reach that, it will be a different dynamic going on. So I hope that assisted someone. Many. Pass this to friends and family because it's something that we need to be aware of, and ensure when you're speaking to law enforcement or any people for that matter, that you're exercising compassion, temperance, and the understanding that a person doesn't have to understand you. So read the room. Sometimes you got to walk away because Buddy was like, oh, and I'm doing it like this. And I'm just like, I'm on your team. I get what you're doing. But I'm trying to help you out so you don't get, some charges put on your record. But at that particular point, he was feeling defensive. I was like, you know what? This is the point where now I need to walk away. It is what it is. Anyway, I love y'all. Thank y'all for being here. Thank you for being a part of the mission. The water purity mission continues. I will be putting up some classes about one drop And so one drop is the movement of water through our systems. And I want to make that available to all different ages. And so the classes that I have coming up, I'm going to have those recorded. So if you want to pass those to your children, you want to mimic some of the activities, I need to find a way to where you can download digital documents and use it for like in-home teaching and or just activities, the engaging educational activities for your up and coming geniuses. They're already geniuses. They just need to apply some concepts. All the information on the planet is already there. It's just the concepts behind the information that we're learning, what categories to put it in. So, I love y'all. Thank you. And talk to you later. Enjoy.